Yeah.
I'm excited to welcome Tony Tom, co-founder and CEO of Orca AI. Tony is on a mission to help B2B product teams stay truly connected with customer insights as they scale. He brings experience from startups like Incent AI, acquired by ZoomInfo, and has built Orca AI into a B2B customer platform. Tony, welcome to Sparking the Fuse.
Amazing. Thanks for having me, Chris. Great to be here.
Awesome. So let's kind of go back to the origin here. Can you share a bit about, your role and how it fits into the bigger picture of Orca?
So my background for the last decade is mostly product. Product as in like I started before that I was like, from college itself, it was mostly startups, small companies. So I did the first product while in college. It was more of a marketplace. Launched that, did not work out, moved into consulting for a little while with a friend, then did consulting for almost 8-9 months, figured out that is not something that I want to do long term. So then moved into another product, which was AI before AI was a thing. That is 2016, when startups did not have enough data to kind of train the AI. We developed a smart editor that content creators could use, specifically using AI. Think of Grammarly on steroids. That's what we built back then. So then that had a pretty good set of users, but eventually did not figure out the GTM motion to scale into the business side of things. And then moved on to Incent as the first product hire and fifth employee to join. So had a chance to like work throughout that journey to get up to the acquisition part. So ZoomInfo eventually acquired Incent in 2020. Then worked with ZoomInfo for a while, similarly in the product space, and then moved on to like do the next startup. So it's like always startups, except like this one big company in the middle, which I could not avoid. But learned a lot throughout this journey. But I mean, the one common thing that was like across is I used to like love building products, still do. And product is the core competency that I kind of like carry myself close to my heart. So that's how I got here.
Oh, I love it, man. If you were to go back in time to when you started that first startup, right? What would you tell yourself? I'm just interested.
Don't do marketplaces.
Like, don't try and build out platforms as marketplaces, you're saying?
Exactly. Like marketplace is like running two startups at the same time. One itself is like a pain. Now, why do you run two startups? Because you need to acquire the source side of things and you need to acquire the other side of things. So it's like running two startups and like acquiring customers for two startups at the same time. Now, marketplace is a model that is really hard to pull off. And what the other side of this thing is like, if you pull that off properly, you become the Airbnb Ubers of the world. So that is another set of things, but like I wouldn't go back into marketplace anytime soon.
Oh, man, that is such interesting insight, especially with some of the other guests I've spoken to. They maybe they need some of your advice, man. That's so funny. Can you tell me like what? One other thing I was interested in was that you said you were fourth, fifth, sixth employee of that one startup. Incent AI. How long was it from then until acquisition that you were with them?
I think approximately 30 months. 30 months, I would
30.
guess. Yeah.
Wow. So pretty quick that you guys
Pretty
scaled
quick.
that
Yeah.
up for acquisition.
Yeah, I mean it was fortunate, and then also when COVID hit, there was this dip happening in the tech, and everybody thought it will just go south. But the remote work culture just bumped that dip back up, and it was like that was a huge inflection point for anybody who was working in tech, right? And we were seeing the same. We were riding on back of that. So Incent was a conversational marketing platform built for B2B. So when everybody moved remote, everybody wanted some way of communicating to customers and like figuring out how to get in touch with customers. So we were in the sweet spot at the right space at the right time. We just like leveraged that, growing pretty fast. And I joined there like pre-customer, like even before the first customer onboarded, built the product, and then like I had the chance to see that grow very fast, especially in the COVID times. So that helped a lot. That was an exciting
What a
experience.
well, yeah, what a cool experience that you saw the full cycle like that. Um, were any of these that was obviously B2B. Have you done any experience in B2C, or has it always been like towards B2B that you've focused?
Early in the days, I have like in the marketplace days, I've
Okay.
done a little bit of consumer stuff as well,
Okay.
but mostly been B2B. I accidentally fell into this, especially when like most of the people that I was talking to, interfacing with, and always been B2B, and that was not intentional, but fell into that. But right now, that's where I am.
No, I love it. I love it. So, tell me now, what does a typical day look like for you at this stage of your company?
So, typical day is split into probably 3 or 4 major segments. One is interfacing with the team. Like, so 3 hours or approximately 3 to 4 hours goes into the product, what we are building next, and like transferring the context to the team, like making sure that they're aligned and I am aligned, like what is happening across. So that is the first part of it. Second part of it, like basically sales, the go to market. So I own that part of the thing. So it's content, what's happening in the industry, LinkedIn, emails, calls that is happening. That's all GTM. So that's like specifically probably the rest of the big chunk align. Like yeah, and then the third part is like when I try to learn a little bit, like so explicitly, I don't have a pattern of learning or anything, but just like go exploring what's happening out there in the world every day. So spend almost 2 hours listening to podcasts or like trying to understand what's happening, trying to understand what's happening in the market. Sometimes I do in person as well because going and speaking to people is the best way to learn. So because that gets you into the unfiltered conversations that you don't hear online. Um, but either of that. So the, like either in person or like maybe when I'm cooking, I just like to listen to podcasts or maybe even read. Reading has like got dropped a lot these days, especially when this media is like becoming the big thing. But that's generally my day. Yeah, I mean, if there's weekends, like we try to kind of like meet with friends, and um, my friends are all like founders and tech as well, so it's like always work there. Even when we are having fun, we kind of
For
like
sure.
talk, okay, what that VC told me about this thing. So weekends, it's more community and friends, but still the conversations remains tech, AI, and software.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you're certainly in the place to do that over there in the Bay Area for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, the air here is either breathing money or tech.
Yes, 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 certainly. Want to talk to you about industry trends that you're seeing. If I was to ask you, what major shifts you're seeing in product management and B2B SaaS right now, what would you say?
um it's a long, wide question that I can like probably talk for another 1 hour. But there are two camps here. One camp is like embracing AI too much, and the other camp is like skipping AI too much. And there are set of people who are like in the sweet spot to kind of manage this in the best way possible. I think product management as a function is well suited in that space because they kind of understand what the business is going through on a little bit. Like 30%, 40% of their work is like always going and looking at what the business needs, and then another 30% goes into like figuring out what the engineering needs. So it becomes a combination and amalgamation of like the product becoming the sweet spot on figuring out like how much do we have to dive deep into AI, and how much, where do we stop, right? Where do we stop the buck and say like this is what we are going to do now, but
Yeah.
we plan for the future. So I kind of like look at product management as the decision making engine instead of just like, okay, product management can write Jira tickets, blah, 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 all of that. Everything is going to get automated. But we don't. But the decision on almost all the context bringing together and essentially making a this is the right thing to do at this point in time, reading through the market, reading through the tech, and reading through the future, that decision is what you're getting paid for. That's why product management is like really hard, because you are basically taking the decision that might drive the company forward or backward. So that's like the sweet spot. So
Mm.
what I'm seeing is people are like, some people are embracing this, like product managers who understand the craft and like what their exact job is. They're embracing this and trying to understand both sides of the game and make the right decisions. But most of the product people that I see are not there yet. They are not, maybe they're lacking AI skills, or maybe they're lacking business skills, or maybe they're lacking like trying to understand how to correlate these two. If you can do that, that is the best spot to be in. If you cannot do that, that's the worst spot to be in. So it's like two buckets here. That's like one major change that I am seeing in the market today.
Man, yeah, I would love to take that deeper dive with you another time and like really kind of flesh out what you're talking about. So you're saying two camps. One is, hey, automate everything, just take it and go with it. And others, a little more balanced approach, which you advocate for is uh, the wiser way to go, but you can go wrong there. It was interesting. I spoke to another business owner earlier last week, and when we talked about the discussion of implementing AI into his business, just as who knows what function exactly, but just AI in general,
Mm-hmm.
his question back to me was, well, if I implement it, then what's Susie going to do?
Mm.
Like thinking it was just this like full replacement instead of taking a more balanced approach. Well, what if we made XYZ easier for Susie? And then she could work on higher level things that actually bring more value to your business, right? Like more of as a support. And it sounds like that's more the camp that you're in, which is like, we're not trying to replace people per se, but we are trying to add a level of support to people to make them way more efficient and magnify their value in a company to make them in and of themselves more valuable. Would you agree with that?
I tend to agree, but it's more like,
Yeah, please tell me the nuances.
yeah, the nuances here is basically, let's say you're Susie, and then you are ready to get upskilled, but your company does not support like upskilling you, or the culture is not learning, the culture is not forgiving, the culture is not about making mistakes. You're stuck. There's no way that you can move forward in this AI world. But let's say your company is specifically focusing you to learn about how to use AI in your day-to-day life. I'm not going to cover the fact that a lot of the jobs that we do today, let's say writing documentation, it's like 90% is like done, right? And then maybe 10% you have like the proofreading part and like making it optimized, etc., etc. But like whoever is writing the document, their job is done. But their job is not done. Their job done being mean they're not getting replaced as humans. So what can you do beyond the documentation is the next question that you as a company and you as a person has to ask. And then try and learn that thing. That'll take probably 3 to 6 months of your time, but your company and the culture and where you're working with, your leaders has to align on, okay, this person has this core competency of making this document into a much better video, or maybe not video, maybe a learnable skill that you can like adapt into. Then just take that skill and like move into that skill eventually as documentations gets automated. That is a culture thing, especially in the internal facing teams, especially in the teams that culture is getting adopted. So if Susie has to improve, if Susie's job is getting replaced, the only way for Susie to do is like learn the next step on what can I do more with AI, what can I do extremely good. Maybe I'm just like amazing prompting on like how to create videos with documentation, how to like do the best next steps for documentation. But keeping writing documentation and just not adopting AI just because that Susie is getting replaced is probably the stupidest thing that you can do. And then then eventually you'll become a dinosaur as a company. That's what I strongly believe. So you have to have the culture of learning and trying to adopt AI, which is a hard thing to do as well, because most of the things that you are doing or you were doing so far is extremely grounded and built for people to do processes. And that's going to change with AI. That's going to kind of like become a prompt at the end of the day. That's where the change is happening. And I'm that camp. And that has two sides to it, depending on where you look from it. Because
Hmm.
if you look from one angle, you are telling, hey, you can easily replace the work that people are doing. But also at the same time, you can easily say, hey, you can replace the work, but you cannot replace the people because they can always learn more and they can always do more. So your customer support person becomes able to do success and being able to do account management and more because your customer support answers are almost always automated at this point. So
Yeah.
that is the shift that.
Yeah, I love that you highlighted it like that because I think, with someone like me with a sales background more than a tech background, just sales in general, I have seen a lot of these AI companies come about and they go with the notion in their head, hey, now you can replace Susie and Jim and Tom. And then they leave it at that. It's like, no, no, no. Like you're saying, and then
Mhm.
Susie, Jim, and Tom can help your business go forward even more because we're freeing them up from these tasks. Let's help them get to that next level. And I think that is a shortfall in a lot of these companies that come out just like, oh, it's like, well, is everyone just going to be the single owner of their company and the rest of it's going to be AI? That's a model that works for very, very few companies. Most don't want to operate like that, and most people want to contribute to something bigger. So I appreciate you getting down in the nuances with me. Um, so you answered a lot of questions on that. How has AI changed the way, I guess, product teams then prioritize features or understand their customers in your eyes? What would you say to that in light of those other comments?
So yeah, so the way that product teams and one of the biggest things that I've seen product teams do wrong across the last decade of my career was like basically trying to think that this is the thing that the customer wants, and they're just building and trying to release that. And like 6 months down the line, you would realize, oh, this is not what I thought it would be. It's wasting 6 months of engineering time, design time, and like everybody's time, including marketing, GTM, sales, all of that. And then coming back and saying like we did a mistake for 2 quarters, like let's correct that in the next 2 quarters, and like doing that mistake again and again. So what is like AI is democratizing a lot of like you cannot go back to anybody at this point as a product person in the company and say, hey, I do not have enough time to listen to all the customer calls. I have to write Jira tickets. I have to write documentation. I have to do all of these things. I cannot interface with enough people to try and understand all of this. I don't have the time to go and visit my customer. So that is a no go at this point. If you're not doing that properly and if you're not doing it, if you're not embracing AI, you're kind of like skipping that part and becoming another associate at the company. So what product teams can do is like automate almost all of this and like bring the insights to me with an AI, bring everything that is happening across customers to me with an AI, bring the GTM insights to me with an AI, bring what are the engineering team is working with, summarize that to me as an AI, even listen to it as a podcast when you're like on a train or like driving back to your home at the end of the day. And it's as simple as that. You can just create workflows to do that. And if you're not doing that, you're dead in the water and like you won't survive anytime. But if you can do that, then you have like probably 60% of your time freed up. And then you have ton of context every day about what's happening across the company horizontally, which is a product team should be doing. And then your prioritization becomes okay, I know from a fact that this is the thing to do because I know the whole context of what happens in the last 30 days across different teams. So that becomes the most important thing. And then you can also cite those specific things that you saw, you heard, you got as an insight from different locations, and you can just say, hey, this is why I'm doing this. So the biggest thing that people miss is like figuring out to tell out this is why and make the decision and move on. But if you attach that why from all of these different things that you can like bring together with AI and say this is why we should be doing this and convince your stakeholders, convince your engineering team, that is the best way to prioritize at this point, and it is a hard thing to do, and it takes your mind space. But if you are a product person and trying to see, oh, how do I do this, you're not learning enough. But if you figure out this is how I can do this, and like doing this already, that is the best way to prioritize. And prioritization is always a data problem. It's not like a decision problem. People think it is a decision problem, but it's always a data problem, because you cannot make a call between A and B because you don't have enough data to decide on what's with A and what's with B. So that is always a data problem, and how much ever context that you can gather, AI is just making that easier.
Yeah. So if I was to summarize that, it's basically AI right now gives using it properly can help you gather context faster and more robustly, more completely to make really important decisions on how you prioritize what the customer actually wants. Because a lot of people think they want something, but what they need is different too, right? And really understanding what a customer needs is yeah, I love that you fleshed that out. The other thing it made me think of is how tech has just evolved since, in the last 10 years, 20 years even, when you had software and you say software, it moves fast.
Hmm.
Well, now AI, dude, it is like mind-blowingly exponential on how fast it's moving. That's one thing I want to ask you about since you've been in tech and then moved into, the AI space, or at least a space that incorporates it a lot more. The stakes on the stakes in the game are way bigger, I feel like, because you could before say, "Hey, we've been going the wrong way for 2 quarters. Let's go back and re-innovate." Now it's like if you do that, you've just lost a ton of time to actually be ramping up, right?
Yep. So losing 2 quarters is like almost like losing 2 years at this point. It's like, yeah, I mean,
There you
uh,
go. Yeah.
pre 2020, you could like, let's say 2 quarters. Okay, we'll just get this back in the next 2 quarters. But now, if you lose 2 quarters, like every other company in the world has done 2 years of business and development and product building, because that's something that you can never catch up on ever, because that is a missed train for you. So the thing that we specifically focus as much as possible is try to like the directions and the minute decisions and nuances that we take on a daily basis is extremely critical, because let's say you went down the wrong path for another quarter, you're kind of like almost done. That being said, I do not believe the hype that the social media is giving that this market is getting taken away. The speed of this is extremely high, but that is when compared to the speed that we have seen in the last 20 years. But the speed that we are seeing is like, let's say 2020 is a reset time. Like the last 20 years, we have seen like this moving at 100 miles per hour. But now that we have like shifted it, and then like we figured out a rocket fuel and say, hey, like next 20 years, we're going to move at like 200 miles per hour. And it's only 4 years. So it's like instead of just thinking as this is like the market is getting taken away, we are at a reset point where the next 20 years will be fully 200 miles per hour. You just have to adapt with it. And it's just the first 4 years. So nobody's going to take this away as is. But if you cannot adapt to that speed change, and if you're still in that like pre 2020 mindset, you might end up missing the train at all. So that is the difference. So it's like
Mm,
two, again, nuances come in, right? Like, I mean,
yes.
this is how you used to build before 2020. Okay, now this is the new way of doing things. Next 20 years is gonna be this. And eventually people will just like, okay, this is the speed that we are traveling at. So we don't care. But the shift is the thing that's happening right now. Not everybody is adapted to it, and that's a difference. So like, let's say your mobile phone app that you're seeing today can be built in a few hours. So yesterday was like fascinating that we were doing a hackathon with our team, six different applications that is getting built. Everybody built an end production level app that can be deployed into any users at any point
Oh, cool.
within the 48 hours of the time. Like it's production level. It's not even like concept, or it is not even like everything included: website, pricing, development, like user sign up, everything included. Everybody did that within the 48 hours. So yeah, by this podcast comes up, we'll have that out in the market as well. So it's changing in a way that you cannot
Cool.
comprehend if you look back, but if you look forward, it's changing in a way that is like you can always comprehend, like plan for the future.
Yeah.
That's how we think about it.
Yeah. I love that way that you broke it down too. Kind of made me think of like, some people I've talked to specifically, some industries move a lot slower than others, obviously. There are some industries out there that, no joke, they are still pen and paper. And you're
Hmm.
like, whoa, like, what's your email address? And they're like giving you an AOL or Yahoo account. And that's their main account. You know what I mean? It's not for junk mail. This is what they actually have. And it's almost like as if not out of ignorance, but just out of plain like lack of desire for things
Mm.
to change, they will stay in that. And that's what you're saying. Like those kind of businesses, if they don't incorporate, they will be decimated, man. There's no way they can keep up with the efficiency and ability to deliver that the companies that do use AI are going to be going, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's not gonna be. I don't think, let's say PG&E, the power and electric thing. You cannot just replace the infrastructure, but what they are gonna lose to is another electric company that will come and adopt AI, which is as big as them, or maybe even like slightly smaller, half of their size. But they use AI to figure out the rest of the 50%, and then they'll just compete with whoever is using AI versus who is not using AI. That is the competition that we're going to see. It's not like
Exactly.
every industry is going to get disrupted by startups. Obviously, a lot of those startups can also disrupt, but infrastructure, even if you're like, let's say, nuclear power plant, you can always come out and say, hey, this is how we adopt AI, and this is how we are like improving 50% productivity for employees, for schedule management, whatever it could be, right? And then that becomes the 2x outcome, where the other company becomes like a partially like not good outcome at the end of
Yeah.
the day. So it's like people versus people, and people using AI versus people using not
Yeah.
AI.
I totally agree with you. I mean, if you even just look at, for example, the home services industry right now, um, why is it so attractive to P&E? Or I mean, for PE? It's like
Hmm.
private equity is looking at it and they're like, we're totally willing to adapt with technology and implement it. And we could get a very cheap buy out of this mom and pop shops here, pick those up, implement even low level stuff, man. Schedule some appointments on the calendar, follow up with people,
Hmm.
make sure they liked it. Don't have to mess with the paperwork, and they are automatically in business, not having ever swung a hammer or done a HVAC job themselves. And they just can put fuel into the engine and make it go. And they're competing with those guys who are resisting it, and they're crushing them. And then they're going to take it and spin it off like a PE firm does.
Hmm.
It's very interesting to see it like that. And more so in the tech space, I like the tech space is filled with early adopters anyway. So we're always trying to push out to those guys who were resistant, right? And finding the market for it. Let's talk a little bit about the current state of Orca. Like what's been working really well for you right now, and what's been most frustrating?
um it's both the same time. It's both. I mean, both of those questions has the single
Two
answer.
sides of the coin, right?
Yeah, two
Yeah,
sides of
yeah.
the coin. What's working is like making noise out there. Is what's only working for most of the companies. I was like in a dinner with a bunch of GTM folks yesterday, and I was like, everybody was talking about like too much noise out there. The only way that you stand out is by making more noise. And you're essentially, again, one guy who was talking about it, like they were sending 8 million emails every month. 8 million. And
Whoa!
and
Holy
the
cow,
and,
dude!
and the conversion was like 0.5%, 0.05%. It's like dropping and dropping, and it's making it worse and worse with all the AI SDRs doing it. 8 million emails. And it has to end at some point, and I am like, yeah, maybe
Gosh,
new industries come out of this. But at the end of the day, what's working is like making noise out there, like especially LinkedIn, social media. Like if you can be seen, if you can make things look like it has, like, I mean, these are the things that's happening, thought leadership and all of that, that's working. That is the only thing that's working, and like trying to stand out with different things. and people do crazy things. And one thing that I realized is you don't have to be as crazy as everybody does. You don't have to drive drive your car off a cliff to kind of get noticed. You just have to like be
Yeah, please don't.
authentic. Yeah. Um,
I love that
yeah,
analogy.
and and the other side of this is exactly like too much noise in the market, which eventually is gonna settle down for sure. But it has to, because I was speaking to a chief customer officer who was like going to an event and coming back and is like, I am done, man. I am done. Like if this is the noise that I have to deal with as a buyer, I'm exhausted. And the only thing that I'm gonna do is either I'll just go to Salesforce and say, give me whatever the heck that you have. I don't care if you're innovating or not. Just yeah, give me what you have. That's where the buck's gonna end. And so yeah, that's a good and a bad thing about this thing.
Yeah. I just have to go back to that dinner. Obviously, not naming names or anything like that. If I told you, hey, Tony, I'm sending out 8 million like emails, how often? A day? A month? Okay.
A month. Day is gonna be
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. 8 million. Well, 8 million is still ridiculous, right? 8 million a month, and I'm getting
Yeah.
0.5%
Yeah.
response. The GTM guy inside of you, what do you tell me as your friend, man? Like, what is the quick fix for me? Like, 2 quick fixes. I'm thinking about it too. I'm saying, okay, let's reduce that number but significantly right now and get the messaging on point
Yeah.
to get the conversion rate to double down on it. That's crazy, man.
I would love to. I would love to say that to you, but being on the transparent side, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
please.
it's not going back at all. There's no walking back from this. And I think somebody has to like block this. And the way that I think about this is email is kind of done as a communication channel. You're like, I mean, email is your next ad space. So you just like make it your brand awareness and like marketing and all of that. And the obvious email client like superhumans and others of the world are gonna make you filter easily through all of this. So once in a while, as you see a LinkedIn ad, you would see one of the emails from us. You would see one of the emails from other companies, but that'll just be a brand building and awareness exercise instead of just like making it a place where you get a reply. I think that's gonna go away, and there's no walking back. Even if, let's say, I say this to this person, the person who's selling 8 million emails, and it's like, dude, my competitors are doing 16 million. What should I do? Right? I mean, you're done. Like, you cannot do anything less than that. And it cannot be, it's if it is a movement that a crowd is doing, you cannot just walk back. So email is becoming this pace. So across the martech and sales tech, if you look at it, you've been in sales, right? You've like had new ad spaces and location where you can, like, I mean, a banner ad came up, then that became the norm. Like, everybody was doing banner ads, then everybody was doing pop-up ads, and everybody was doing LinkedIn ads, and like, so email has become the next ad space. And you just have to like use it as the next ad space, and 8 million is the price that you're paying for that ad space. That's it. That's becoming the norm. And eventually it'll become like, once in a while I open the updates folder of my email once every week just to see if there is something interesting.
Mhm.
And if there is nothing interesting, I'm just gonna scroll through that. Okay, sounds good, cool. But once a week, I give that space. But otherwise, my inbox is always only things that I kind of like care about. So yeah, I have those tabs. Like, I mean, Google do that. Every email client today does that. With AI, it's gonna be more and more.
Sure, sure. No, that's interesting insight. I mean, I definitely have thoughts on it as well. Like, I think B2C email it can be a very difficult space. I think B2B email is quite different, quite different. A lot of people, like, they either like it or they don't. If they like it, they respond and they keep their appointments more. As business people, we don't want to be seen as someone who's, after I committed to something, I'm not going to do it, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I think there's still space in there for sure for all the different types of efforts. But yeah, I think I definitely know that 8 million in a month is really excessive for that type of, if you're only getting that type of conversion rate. I would always be looking to land my messaging better,
Yeah.
a
Yeah. I
lot
mean,
better.
messaging better. If it is intent driven and you know that this person is having this problem, you know this can benefit from it. Um, I mean, people are not figuring that out, and people are not putting the effort to figure that out. Like, remember the real sales days, right? I mean, where you are solving a problem rather than just like bombarding people with like, oh, can you buy this? Can you buy this?
Right, right.
And every time when I was like going to a salesperson asking like, should I send more emails or less emails, the obvious answer was less. Less but more focused was the always obvious answer. And that with all this new and this is going to come to an end is what I believe, but I don't know if email will survive that much time. But
Mhm,
this has to end at some point. How does it end? I don't know yet. But I'm guessing like every hype cycle has its own timeline, so we'll
mhm.
just wait out.
Yeah, no, that will be interesting to see. If I asked you if you could solve one major challenge today for Orca from your seat, what is it going to be? You wave that magic wand?
Um, uh, Context, basically clarity is one problem that I would love to solve, especially around AI. Because I mean, you've seen this report probably as well. MIT recently published like 90% of the pilots that AI is running like does goes to dust. And that is real because I was talking to a friend the other day and he's like doing a ton of meetings. Like, I mean, 45 meetings a month, 55 meetings a month, etc. One person, the conversion was less than 5%. Like the funnel is not moving. So the over promise, even if I am not over promising as an AI company, the general over promise of AI is going to be a silver bullet for any of your problems. Let's say your therapy, your marriage, your family, and whatnot. That has gotten public, or like in general, people who are not digging deeper enough into a point where, okay, if your product cannot solve me this and this, and it has to give me like this much things, they're not evaluating in terms of like problem solution at this point. They're just like, everybody is thinking like, okay, AI has to be a silver bullet for me, and how do I prove this silver bullet is working for my business? And since everybody's buying pattern evolved in that space into this, people are thinking your product is just chat gpt that does everything. And that problem will exist for a little bit more time, but people are starting to learn that this is not a silver bullet. You just have to find out like the old sales way of doing things, like find the solution for the problem that you have, and if it is matching, and how much is the improvement, what is the ROI, and like going through the same process of buying software in the past is just another way of buying things. And how do you map these metrics? That is where the difference would make. And that's like, if I have a magic wand, like, let's jump into that timeline, let's go there and stop this AI being a silver bullet BS that is happening in the industry as of today. And yeah, all of
mhm.
these horizontal platforms are like not doing justice to any of this at all. So that's where, yeah.
Right. No, you bring up such a good point. Like, if we sit in the business owner's chair that you are trying to sell to and other companies are trying to sell to, if everyone had their way, then their like tech stack would be how deep, man? Like they would have something to scratch their nose to freaking recline their chair. Like you want to do anything, there's an AI for it, right? And that's just not the case. And it's just not the case that everything fits well to people. I like your magic wand, man. That's very insightful. So tell me this, like for your company in the B2B customer service space, like who is like that ideal customer for you? Like what companies do you like work well for?
So we very much focus on B2B. That's a really clear identification that we want to make, like business to business. The reason that we make that differentiation is like every customer support platform that if you look at today, Zendesk, Intercom of the world, they were built for consumers. They were built for consumer businesses to make the users complain about the vacuum cleaner that you bought last week. And that has its own advantages because you can just go and complain about it. Somebody will say it's like, okay, I created the ticket, I'll get back to you, I'll send you the replacement, all of that. That workflow exists. But B2B customer support, we've seen it as a cost center so far, but with AI, you can make it not a cost center. And the support can become one place where you can actually make the customer feel heard and happy. So we are taking that concept of customer support and elevating that customer support is not a question answer mechanism for B2B. It's a way that you tell your customers and the users that we care. And when you care, your customers are happy, and then eventually going into a happiness phase, like they like the value, they are adopting the value, they're like going through the process and then renewing at the end of the year. That's what you want at the end of the year, right? And keeping happy. Happy is a wrong word, probably, but satisfied and like solving for them. So we are just making that twist on top of what is existing customer success and support platforms are doing. Success is probably a different thing altogether, but yeah. So that is where we come in. We take the whole account, the customer as a whole, instead of just being one user asking questions. One user asking questions on how to reset my password is a thing in the past. You can just use AI to do that. But one user at coming and saying, hey, I had asked for this feature last month. Do you have an update for that? A customer support person going and asking an engineer and figuring out who's the product person, who's like, what is the status of that, figuring out like what happens there on Jira and like coming back to the customer. Today, it's a huge workflow that is going back and forth in a different set of things depending on how big is the company. So we are solving that, making customer support have the whole account context and customer context so that they can easily answer. Oh, your renewal is coming up. I know that this is happening to you. We've shipped the few features that you've asked for. Like maybe take a look. Here's the documentation. So all of that has like, I mean, that sentence seems simple, but that has like 3 or 4 different contexts coming in together.
Uh,
That's where we come in and like say, this is how you treat your B2B customers. And we sell to upper SMB mid-market customers. So like companies who are doing like, let's say you have a set of customers on different platforms. You're trying to serve customers as much as best as possible, and you don't want to hire another 5 people to cater to like your existing customer base. That's where we come in and say, okay, you have your existing customer support people, empower them by saying, hey, all the reset password questions, just send it to this particular AI, let it be taken care. Your job is to kind of like take this context and tune this to the account that you're working with. That's what your job is. You're not just a question answer mechanism thing. So that's the Susie getting empowered and like eventually getting into the next step.
there you go. There you go. Now, I'm trying to envision like this, like kind of ideal customer for you. Is it like typically going to be like SaaS companies or?
So in general, we sell to B2B SaaS companies to start with, but it's not limited to B2B SaaS
Of
companies.
course.
So we sell to B2B because B2B mid-market companies who has like, let's say 500 plus customers in their account, and then somebody has to manage them. That is the space that we come into. And then they're using Zendesk and drowning in questions and they don't know what to do next. That's where we come in.
Got it. Yeah, and to our earlier point, they've already adopted tech as a like a stronghold in their business versus
Yep. Yeah.
like people who haven't implemented too much tech. And it's like, how do you turn the computer on? Well, there's a little, it's kind of half circle with just messing.
Yeah.
Hey Tony, this has been a really insightful conversation with you. I love the nuances that you've taken me through on all the different types of questions we asked about. You know, what you see in your current marketplace, the current state of your company is, and also what you guys are doing right now to solve problems. For anyone who's interested and wants to get a hold of you, what's going to be the best way to do that?
LinkedIn is the best way. Like I am pretty responsive on LinkedIn. And yeah, that's the best way to get in touch. If you drop a message or a request, I'm like happy to chat, uh, pick the brain, like similar to this conversation. Happy to do that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, it's great having you as a guest. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Great conversation.